Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order our City Council budget meeting for February 9th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smith, if you take roll, please.
Mayor Jacobs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dold.
Here.
Councilmember Hughes.
Here.
Councilmember Witt. Here. Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Dold.
Here.
Councilmember Karafotis.
Show Councilmember Karafotis running a little bit late. Item 4 is our approval of the agenda. Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the City Council budget meeting agenda for Monday, February 9th as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Hughes. Discussion from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, on to our items for consideration. Our budget, 26-27 budget. I'll call on Mr. Gibbons, our city manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, tonight kicks off our process to begin formulating the 26-27 budget for the city of Garden City. Tonight, the purpose of tonight is for me to give a brief overview and then hear feedback from council as to what you would like us to see incorporating in our budget. Of course, everything is subject to financial considerations, but it's important that you, the representatives of the city of Garden City, provide us information as to where you'd like to see us go as we put together a financial plan. When you put together a budget, you're putting your priorities in order because it's not about the money, but quite often it's about the money. So hearing from council, hearing from your constituents, hearing what you'd like to see the city do and us do better is important for myself and the department head's formulation of this year's budget. This year we sit in sharp contrast to where we were last year. Last year, if you recall, in May of 2025, we passed an initial temporary budget that had a deficit of around $3 million, utilizing $3 million of general funds. Quickly, the interim manager Miller at the time, before my appointment, had that reduced to $2.5 million. Throughout the year, we made more concessions and cuts to get us down to 1.5, and then through the efficiency and the good operation by our department heads, we ended up with less than $1 million deficit. So essentially from when you looked where we started in May of 24 to the end of this budget year, we were able to lessen the impact of the deficit by almost $2 million. This year, we stand in a much firmer, more familiar grounds as we do in Garden City. Our 25-26 budget, which we're currently operating in, at its worst case scenario, should anticipate a fund balance use of $375,000 roughly. Although right now we're operating about 3.5% below budget, and so 3.5% of our $30 million budget's about $1 million under right now, if that holds throughout the rest of the year. Budgets are always what they are as a guess. So we do our best to anticipate known things that are occurring and prepare for those that we can expect. So as this year continues, we feel confident that we will end up coming in below budget and then continue to put us in a good place. But there is always unexpected expenses. Part of this year, not necessarily unexpected, but unknown as we go through this year, this 3.5% we're operating under is in consideration of the fact that we're still working on the fire department and making those improvements. So continue to operating where we're at right now is a positive indicator that we've made the right corrections financially. I hope to only continue to build on the financial strength of Garden City through this next year's budget. And it just says a lot about our employees and our department heads' ability to work to do more with less. Those were some significant cuts that occurred last year, but we're maintaining a pretty good pace with this year's budget, and I anticipate we can roll that same kind of principle into next year's. This is a little bit modified from the budget philosophy I wanted us to adopt last year that I think helped correct some of this, our financial issues, is we're maintaining a long-term financial plan to create service and financial stability by doing the following. Building on solid financial decisions made during the Great Recession, I think we continue to use that as a model. Michigan municipal financing is always up and down, so operating conservatively and growing at a slow but sustainable pace is always the way to go. That we dedicate our funds to maintain and improve service and lower long-term costs should be our focus. We size Garden City operations based on the demand of our citizens, the value we can produce, and our ability to actually fund what they're asking for, and maintain a high fund balance to ensure consistent delivery of services. What we learned, especially last year and in many years, is that when you have a high fund balance, you can sustain some significant financial troubles. We had to basically, our general fund had to prop up our water fund. It had to cover our deficits and give us the space to right the ship as we did last year. Without a significant fund balance last year, we would have been in a really bad place. There would have been significant layoffs and significant reductions in service. But because we had a large fund balance walking into, a significant fund balance, around 30%, I think, by the time we walked into that year, we were able to sustain it and then make some cuts and actually, and basically come close to maintaining it. I'm excited to get to the slide where we talk about our fund balance percentage. And then lastly, seek opportunities to provide value to Garden City citizens, grants, technology, and new efficiencies. Value is the transfer of utilizing tax dollars in a way that maximizes the benefit to the citizens at a way that doesn't burden them too much for taxes and fees. So, it's to continue to seek those opportunities where we can do things that maybe is partially funded by somebody else, but doesn't put us at risk for long-term financial issues. So this year, I'm recommending that we recognize in the 25-26 budget, we reduced and eliminated Garden City's over-reliance on the general fund to balance our budget. So for 26-27, I recommend we prioritize increasing the fund balance according to our fund balance policy. We want to make sure we stay above the 25%. I think 30 is a pretty solid place to be at a minimum, though our fund balance policy allows us for 25. But I believe operating more in the middle of like 30 plus is the idea. Identify and correct any areas where last year budget cuts impacted long-term essential service delivery. I'm cognizant that when you have to make significant cuts in a year to right the ship, that you may negatively impact service. And we're monitoring that over the course of this year, and I'm looking for feedback as to where council would like to see if there's anywhere we're lacking that we need to add. And so when we build this next budget is to be cognizant that we may have reduced a department where we hurt a little bit of their operability. When you're trying to cut as much as we had to cut in a very short time frame with sort of an emergent budget correction, you may overcorrect a little. So where may we need to add a body back? Where may we add to add a service back? We're examining this year for that. We're going to plan for future revenues to go towards reducing legacy costs and known future capital needs. I think sometimes when we're doing fairly stable financially, we can get a little ahead of our skis and forget that quite often we have capital needs that are nearing us in the future more closer than we realize, and we need to prepare for those. Fire engines need replacing every so often. Roofs, HVAC systems, those things do go bad, and to prepare for them now for when they go bad later is the best way to go. And lowering legacy costs only enables our ability to improve service in the future. If we make a promise, we need to fund that promise at the time we start the promise, rather than just hope somebody else will figure out later. So to make sure we're addressing our legacy costs. And then lastly, prioritize capital spending and grant funding that reduces operational costs and maintains current services. There's a lot of ways we prevent how do we get where we were last year. Well, one of them is just adopting a philosophy that recognizes that sometimes you can get awarded grant money and funding that in the short term sounds fantastic, but creates a long-term burdensome financial operating cost. And that operating cost you just can't sustain. Even though you got the grant money to start the project, it's whether it has a life that can be a useful service in the future and not jeopardize other services. So that's the approach I want to continue to maintain and keep moving us in the right direction. I feel like we've turned a nice corner as I've watched the financial statements come in each month. We're continuing to operate at a level I'm very satisfied with. And before I go on, when it comes to prioritizing capital spending and reducing capital costs, we were just recently made aware that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has obtained about $1 million worth of funding for our Ford Road water main project, something that we have discussed at DPS and with our engineers as a need. So, you know, we had some recent trouble with capital spending in our water fund. It's nice when it comes from an outside source. And that's absolutely, you know, our water system is always going to need constant maintenance and repair. So finding outside funding for those kind of things means we only further bolster our return to financial stability in the water fund. And moving from water to roads, you know, it's a good time every year to sit and discuss as we're looking at the budget and going forward what we're doing with your money, particularly in the form of the road bond millage. You know, I do like this slide. It actually is from prior administrations, but it illustrates a very good point of what can happen when a project is tackled properly. In 2018, we anticipated a lot less than what we actually got out of the money, and we're continuing to utilize it. We've completed a lot of roads, and, you know, while there's still always work to do when it comes to roads, same as a water system, you have to maintain it constantly. We've made some great progress. I think I said this last year, but it's worth noting, you know, as a police officer, I drove around the city of Garden City for 20-some years. I got to know the bad roads really well, and as I continue to drive around, there is some great improvements and more to come. One I continuously get complaints about is Maplewood in front of the high school. So I'm excited to, you may have seen our engineers out on Maplewood recently surveying. This summer, as part of the road bond project, we're going to do a mile of Maplewood from Henry Ruff to Harrison. That'll get one of our most commonly traveled local, well, internal roads, runs in front of the high school, crosses Middle Belt, and is actually rapidly deteriorating. This is a large concrete road with a boulevard, so it's going to take a significant investment, but I believe it's one of those roads that's sort of a centerpiece for our city because so many people use it, and so much of our city is attached to it, particularly in the use of the high school and the facilities in Douglas right there. Other than that, if you've traveled on Pardo, John Hawk, and Garden, east of Middle Belt, you'll recognize some very, very also dilapidated roads. I feel for anyone who's having to drive them right now. Those are on the list for this summer, and we're getting those work done in those numbers. You know, with some anticipated development on Pardo, south of Ford, east of Middle Belt there was a little bit of a thought of, well, maybe we should hold off for a minute until we see what development's there, but the road has deteriorated so much, and if you're waiting for some other commercial development to occur to fix a road, I think you might be waiting a while sometimes, because those projects, as we've learned, don't always get done as quick as you'd like. So we're just going to go ahead and get those done. Which leads us to state shared revenue, which should stay static, but then, which is now related because I don't know if you recall, House of Representatives for the state, Dylan Willigella, came in and talked to us a little about a slight cut to the state shared revenue, which is concerning. Honestly, that should do nothing but go up for municipalities. But as part of the legislation, it turns out there'll be a significant increase to our Act 51. What you're seeing on the board right now is our normal, regular, expected $3.5 million that we're supposed to get, we've been getting, but we anticipate an extra $1 million sometime during the state budget year this year, which ends up stopping in October, and then another $1.75 million in 2027 for our Act 51 payment. So we're going to have some more money coming into roads to just continue to keep and maintain, and then probably put some new roads in with that money, as we'll have some priorities to work out. But we're finishing with our last road bond millage money when we get Maplewood and those other roads done, but it's nice to see the state step up and start doing something that Garden City's citizens already had to, which is fund new roads. So I'm excited to say that and to see that happen. The checks haven't been cut yet, but I have some confidence the legislation was passed that we'll get it. So looking forward to that. So road funding can go up just from our Act 51 money. Our taxable value continues to rise. We continue to see Garden City properties increase in value. You know, while it's a bit of a trend, I think it's also a special trend in Garden City because I think all the work that's being done and some of the great services do attract people here more so than even other cities. Debt payment, you'll see in the blue, the large line is the road bond payments, and after that, you'll notice that our debt is pretty low. We had a significant size bond drop off that paid for an ambulance, a parking lot for a few years ago. That has since dropped off. So really the debt that the city of Garden City owes is extremely low, which is a good sign. We try and live with our means, not put out long-term purchases and stretch them out. We try and pay them when we get them so that we can operate in a steady financial state. And this is what I am really the slide I was most excited about talking about tonight. I don't have the slide up there attached to it, but if you looked at last year's, you would have seen we anticipated last budget year to go down to 24% in our fund balance, and then dip further even if we continued that pace to 16%. We righted the ship. Last year's, we ended up with a fund balance around 31%, and you know, with the upcoming budget, we anticipate 27.2%. This does have an asterisk, though, only because it includes money owed to us by our water fund, which is an IOU. It's being paid back fairly consistently. But to give an accurate picture of our fund balance is and the stability we have, these are our numbers. We anticipate being at this and hopefully maintaining this, you know, or more in the future. And again, I say it till I'm blue in the face. It's just essential that we maintain a strong fund balance because the predictability of governance and finance these days is so unpredictable that these high fund balances help us level things out. And I believe it was the last meeting we provided you a 5-year proposed capital improvement project plan. That plan is always the way our ordinance reads is we provided that to you first as just something to begin to look at. But I always like to put it really capital projects in the back end of our budget just because we need to make sure we're delivering our services at the level that citizens expect before we go adding any new capital expenses. So I like to get through a budget, understand where we land, and then what we can afford as far as capital is concerned. We will be discussing that through the budget process, but I gladly hear any comments we have on capital needs tonight. Personnel costs, we anticipate a 3% contract raise across all of our unions this summer as we begin next budget year, so we'll take that into account as we evaluate what we can do next year. And that really brings us to our goal discussion. But before I do, I just want to thank council, thank the department heads. Our ability to correct some of the financial problems that we inherited last year has demonstrated pretty solid resiliency and pretty a reaffirmation of the principles I thought that previous city administrations, Bob Murray, Dave Harvey, and Dave Kosis had kind of put in place. And I think when you adhere to those, you'll have a strong, stable city no matter what. So, and I just want to thank council for your efforts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibbons. At this point, we'll open up our goal-setting discussion. Council, who would like to start?
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
So this is goals that we would like to see happen, correct?
Yes, it is.
Well, one, I would like to invest in our infrastructure more. So we talked about the Act 51 money and the road bond. I know previously when all the money was spent in the water fund that we used that a lot to do other things when we were doing the roads. So can we add some things in there that maybe we do less roads, but when we do those roads, we're actually like replacing the water mains? I mean, is there a way to show that, like how much more it would cost? I've had a lot of residents, and we've talked about it before, our infrastructure is so old. And I see Brad Oman sitting over there from DPS, and I'm sure he's frustrated every day with the water main breakings. And I just think we've been ignoring that for a long time, and we really need to start doing something about it. So it shouldn't be in capital improvements. It should be in, okay, we're going to spend this much money on this every single year until we, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is Act 51 money allowed to be spent on that? If we're doing roads, we repair the water or change out the water mains when we're doing it?
You know, it's for road improvements. And now, of course, when you're putting a water main in under a residential street, you're affecting the road generally. And
So yes, then?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And our road bond is able to be used for that also too, right?
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, I want Maplewood fixed,
Yep.
and John Hawk especially, but I I mean, we have to do Maplewood, but I'm just saying, moving forward this year and next year, we should start doing small increments at least of water mains.
And just on that note, and I was remiss, I forgot to mention it when I was talking about Congresswoman Tlaib awarding, getting us the $1 million.
For Ford Road?
Our last year's request to our elected representatives was solely related to water and roads. We kind of just shotgun affect all of our representatives with ideas about water and roads. And we just put as many as we could out there and saw what would land, and so $1 million ain't too bad. So we'll continue to do that and focus on infrastructure, unless there's a particular need that might be more of an emergency. But generally, water and roads is where I'd like to focus our efforts.
Do we consistently contact the Michigan Infrastructure Office to see what grants are available? I know with this year's budget, they added, I think, like $26 million. So do we have someone that just works on that?
We do, and a lot of it actually comes through from our engineers. They do a pretty good job of making us aware of grants, particularly in the water system. They're available, Safe Drinking Water grants.
I saw the ones about lead and all that, but there's one specifically just for infrastructure.
Yeah, well, and we were just the recipient of, I think it was up to 5, but we did the water main looping and Marquette. So that was all outside.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of instead of I know we need the big ones like Ford Road and the looping and all that, but now it's time to start fixing in the neighborhoods where everybody has the brakes. The other thing I really want to concentrate on in the budget is investing in our police department. I see all these ads for all these other departments and what they can offer, and I know that we can't match other larger cities money-wise, but I just feel that if we get somebody that comes into our police department for an interview and they walk around and they look around and they're like, wow, it's old in here and it's debilitated. So, maybe if things were fixed in the police department that have been a long time coming, I know it's on some of your capital improvements, but that should be at the forefront when it comes to the actual building itself. I know that it was put off for a long time for the HVAC, but and I know that we had the report room on there and the cells and stuff like that. That's awful. We need to fix that. And then the other thing is, I know that the chief brought it up, I think a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago about radios, that is a priority that we need those things. So I think if we're going to attract new officers and people that want to come to our department, other than saying it's really safe and it's great to work in Garden City, you have these new things. So, and then, I'll mention this because about 10 people asked me this in the last 2 weeks because they knew budget stuff was coming. If there's any money left over from all that really important stuff, is talking to the school and see if they'll split relining the parking lot at Radcliffe because people park like crazy, and there's always seems like someone's going to run into somebody there. And then in the years past, I've always brought this up every single budget meeting about continuing education for our staff. And I think that we brought it up and we put it in the budget and then we never used it and it got used somewhere else. So when it comes to education for our staff, I think that's important, along with our boards and commissions. Those are my most important things.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Council, anyone else?
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
I'd like to see us work on that master plan. I know it's been 4 years since I've been on the planning commission. I was on it for 10 years when I first come on. Back then, we attempted to do it several times. Every time we get in it, it would be stopped. I think that's kind of critical for our future. And I also am all for improving the police department, their equipment, vehicles, just across the board. I've toured over there, and the jailhouse is bad shape. We just received some stun guns from another city. That kind of bothers me. I'm sure those are close to be outdated too. We need to give these guys top quality equipment and keep them safe so they can go home to their families. I too would like to get more training with communications council, the boards, and employees, as well as grants. I wonder if we can get a part-time grant writer that just focuses on that, 29 days a week or hours a week, I mean.
We have talked about that in the past a lot.
For us. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember King.
some of my stuff is kind of along the same lines. Regarding the water main replacement, I'd like to see a water main risk and prioritization model created. I think it'd be similar to the PACER system we have for the roads, where it would rank all the water mains we have from worst to best. I mean, I know we have wealth of knowledge with Brad and Steve in the department, but it'd be really nice to see that documented in a spreadsheet. You know, the top worst water mains we have in our system. Maybe, you know, the model would have like age of the water mains, the break history, material type. And I think this would give us a better, clear replacement goal. Another thing I've thought of, I think would be beneficial for the city to bring down our operational costs. I'd like to see an energy audit for our city facilities. We pay quite a bit in utility costs. As everybody knows, DTE, consumers energy, rates keep rising, and if we can do things to the building regarding the HVAC systems, lighting, insulation, controls to help mitigate some of that cost, I think it would be beneficial. I also like to see, last year, I think we added a line item for park and rec maintenance. I'd like to see us expand on that because I think that really helps slow down the deterioration of our parks. Some examples, and I'm not talking about the CIP, like the bathroom replacements, those are large projects. But like the walkways, we have a walkway in City Park and Rotary, and there's cracks. And just if we sealed them in the fall time, it would prevent the path from further deterioration, and eventually now having to replace it. Mm-hmm. I think we did a nice start this year, or, I'm sorry, 2025, getting mulch for the playground area, but I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Painting the grills so before they rust and fall apart, replacing benches. This is something you kind of touched on, I think, Tim, talking in previous meetings. I'd like to see a multi-year financial health outlook for the city, like a 5, 10, 15 year, where we are today and where we want to be in 5, 10, 15 years. And that's the different funds, pension and retire obligations, and so forth. I also had, regarding the CIP, I did look through that. I think total for 26, 27 is 5.5 million. I just see the police department regarding the report room and the cell block. Knowing that we're not going to be able to spend probably 5.5 million in a CIP, I would like to see the police department, and for sure the fire department, both float to the top, so we can take care of those. Finish up the fire department and do some updates in the police department. And I think the last thing I have is regarding headcount. I think last year reported out to us around March of last year the different shortages we had in staffing throughout the city. And one of the larger departments was the police department. At that time was 5, and the fire department was 3. I'd like to see, obviously, if we probably can't replace all those positions, but start replacing some of them. Oh, and then I'm just happy to see Maplewood from Henry Ruff to Harrison. I was going to mention that, but I'm glad to see it's already on there.
Good.
And that's all I have at the moment.
That's it. Thank
Mayor,
you. Councilmember Dole.
can I just add something to Dominic's?
Oh, was it Councilmember Karafotis?
I just want to add something to what Dominic said. When he talked about the energy costs, we've talked about it before. All our other buildings that we pay DTE for are on a plan, and Radcliffe's not on that plan.
Okay.
So we've talked about it before, doing that. I know that when we replaced the lights, we talked about getting that, the discount from DTE, and I don't think that ever happened either.
Okay. Councilmember Dole, did you hit your button this time?
Already hit it. I was just waiting. I don't have a problem with anything that's already been said at the table. Most of it was on my list, so I don't have to speak as long. One of the things I did want to, and this really isn't going to cost a lot, I don't think, but I would like, and I know Councilwoman Karafotis has brought it up many times, a comprehensive emergency plan for the city, not just for our city, but also if we could take that a step further and maybe put something together for our residents and our business owners. Kind of put that together, and along with using more volunteer opportunities with our residents to help the city. Years ago, we had a CERT team. We could put a CERT team together. I know that they did bring the neighborhood watch back somewhat. I don't know where that's at. You know, I went to a couple of meetings a year or so ago, and so I'm not real sure where that's at right now. And saying that, also to collaborate with our community organizations. Like right now, Councilmember King was talking about putting some money into our little pocket parks everywhere, our neighborhood parks. And the Kiwanis Club, you know, we keep our name, Kiwanis keeps their name on the Kiwanis Park, and they have put together quite a plan.
Yes.
To upgrade Kiwanis Park. So, and the city has been wonderful in working with them. So if we could expand that into our other organizations and make use of those opportunities that they're going to give us. The other stuff really doesn't have to do with budgets or anything. And, you know, I'd like to see our city charter updated officially. It's been a long time. There's a lot of stuff in it that just doesn't ring true anymore. I'd also like to see our ordinances all reviewed. And in addition, we've been with some of our, I can't think of the
Vendors?
word. I say vendors, thank you. We've been with some of our vendors for a really long time, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not. So I would like to see us take a look at that, see what else is out there, and, you know, I think it may be a boost to Garden City to get some new vendors into position and see where that takes us. Pretty much all I have.
You? Councilmember Hughes.
If we can circle back to when you mentioned reconstructing Pardo.
Yes.
And we're anticipating a big project there. And I know that when we, on Maplewood, when we had a lot of heavy trucks running through, I know it tore up Maplewood quite a bit. And I know that it needs to be done, but I wanted to know if we could kind of look at the order of which we do that. And, you know, if I know that project could take a while, but I'd hate for us to spend the money on redoing that road, and then it just, you know, collapse under the weight from all the semis and all the heavy materials that would be moving.
Understood.
And I'm all for doing something with the police station as well. You know, I think that there are a lot of reasons that people choose, you know, position in a particular place, and I think that quality of life includes your, you know, your work, your surroundings, and then to be able to operate at a maximum capacity, you know, with what we have.
Thank you. You want to, Councilmember Witt? Go ahead.
For resetting a lot of the stones and stuff down in the DDA district as, you know, things have deteriorated over time. I know the curbs are hard to replace, and that was one of the bigger things that I wanted originally worked out, but that's, you know, levels are resurfacing over the years on the road, so it's kind of hard to keep up with that. And then, you know, to what Councilman Joel said, you know, the vendors, the first thing when we put you in your seat is I brought up to the vendors you and we kind of talked about it a little bit, so it's good to, you know, hopefully see some change coming down the road for those, so. That's pretty much all I'm sitting there.
Okay.
I did have one other thing.
Go ahead.
And I know this is really pie in the sky at this point, but I would like to keep it on the back burner somewhere, is the downtown park. We don't have a big facility on this side of town, and, you know, there was some work done in regard to that downtown park, and I would just like to see the DDA keep that in their pocket too, so.
Sounds good.
Okay. I just have a couple things. I agree pretty much with everything. It's all needed stuff. One building that wasn't mentioned is the ice arena that brings in some money, actually a lot of revenue, and I know Under new leadership, we're looking at more tournaments and stuff like that, making sure it's usable as far as we keep having an issue with certain parts of the equipment, so keeping an eye on that. I know we've had an issue for 20 years with the hot water, possibly looking into something, maybe on-demand water or something. People do not like taking cold showers after
Oh, I take this water system.
I can vouch for that. But stuff like that, I know the police department needs it. We're fixing up the water, or the fire department. Ice arena is another one that probably needs some looking, some TLC also. I'd like to see us possibly look at even some possible part-time ordinance officers. I think we're really short-handed there, and that's another way. It's a revenue source that can probably pay for itself without actually picking on people, so that they think we're coming after them for whatever. But snow on sidewalks is a real good idea of why we should have more out there. There's no reason why people can't shovel their sidewalk, especially the businesses, but we don't have ordinance to get out there yet. Same with cars on streets. We wrote 100, but we probably could have wrote a lot more. And just overall staffing. We talked about it, anywhere we can have the money and add to our departments, let's do it.
Sounds good.
That's about all I had.
Mayor, can I comment on something you said?
Councilmember Karafotis.
Regarding the ice rink. So we have a great ice rink, and we have very affordable rates there. What you may not know is that there's big companies going around all around Michigan, and they're buying all the ice rinks, and they're jacking those prices very high. So they're looking to buy municipality ones also. Do I want us to sell? Absolutely not. But all those people that aren't going to be able to afford to go to these higher price places are going to want to come here. They're already trying to come here because we have really good rates. So improving that is going to tenfold. We'll be able to get more business here. So have plenty of time for our residents to have open skate, have plenty of time for our hockey teams, but there's lots of time that we can rent the ice out because people don't want to go where it costs a lot more. So keeping those things up to date is really important, whether our generators and our ice and all those things. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, because we have tournaments that we could bring in from out of out of town. They make a lot of money, which brings in a lot of revenue, not only to the ice rink, but to surrounding businesses, which I think we've really built up a lot of businesses. We've opened a lot of new businesses. So it would help the entire community to do that. Locker rooms is another wish list that we've had for years.
absolutely.
But again, to draw tournaments and make some of that money, that's something, on the wish list that would be nice to possibly look into, even if it's one at a time, but plans so we can do multiple ones.
That is something that really brings revenue to your city, because if you're having a hockey tournament, they have a large roster. They bring a lot of family members, the parents, grandparents, and they want to go to the rink, and then they want to eat somewhere. So they want to go to the rink and they want to do something fun. So it brings a lot of money right into our own city when you can have 20 hockey teams here.
Okay, anybody else? Council? No further comments. Okay, public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on our budget meeting from the public? Nobody wishing to speak? Okay, with no further business, we will adjourn till 7 o'clock. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.